Hello, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to Inner Space Wembley. Today's topic. Do anyone remember what is today's topic?
Overcoming fears and insecurities.
Yeah, overcoming fear and insecurities. Very interesting topic. And for that, we have a sister Anne with us, and her background as a Christian missionary in West Africa, and later working with children with special needs, has been a spring ground for her current role. So, not taking much of her time, and welcome, Sister Anne. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome and congratulations for coming here or even online to face your fears and insecurities and find a solution, I hope. So, the bottom line is we are the creator of our thoughts. So we are the creator of our sadness and our happiness, our fears and insecurity. But there's always a reason behind it. That's right. Good, thank you. And so we'll explore some of those things tonight and look at how we have a choice on what we think and how we think, because our thoughts create our destiny. They create our personality. We've never really realized, and nobody ever taught us when we were children, that thoughts were the most important thing in our life. We just thought they happened. But we look at how we can change our thoughts and make them appropriate for our happiness and our security. So, fears come and they go. And we have to learn to overcome them, as the title says. There was a book written in the 80s called Face the Fear and Go Beyond It. Face the fear. Feel the fear. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Was it? Feel the fear and do it anyway. One of the things that probably most people fear is, like tonight, public speaking. Probably would rather be sitting there than being here. She heard I'd been a missionary in Africa. And when I went out to Africa, I said, I'll do the job there, but don't ask me to speak when I come back. I don't want to do any speaking because the expectation would be that I'd come and tell the church what I'd been doing, what it was like. But actually, when I came back, I'd had such a wonderful experience, and I found that other people wanted to know what had been happening, what I'd been doing. So I found that enthusiasm to share, and gradually I developed my confidence in doing it. I think all people who are actors and public speakers have some fear before they go on stage or stand before an audience. It's not a bad thing. It sort of boosts the adrenaline a bit just to get you moving. But we're going to go beyond that fear. So fears could be from our past, present, or even about the future. We've looked a little bit about the present. We might, though, feel insecure in ourselves. Perhaps our appearance, our life, our job, our home, our relationships make us feel insecure. Things are not right, and we think others are better than us. Or we think that other people have had opportunities that we haven't had. And so we feel insecure and pretty well low in self-respect. But then I have to realize that I am unique. There's nobody else like me. I am the product of my thoughts, actually. But I can choose and I can be whatever I want. And let me be pleased and be happy with what I am or who I am now. And don't compare with others or be envious of others. Just feel good. It's about feeling good about myself. So I banish some of the fears. Present, past. Past fears often come from something unknown, maybe from our early childhood or even past birth. And they give us fear of things like fear of water, fear of heights, fear of enclosed spaces, or fear of spiders. Some people have creepy crawlies. But when that happens, I've got to sit and I reflect. What could be the reason? Water. What's the benefit of water? I need water to drink. I need water to bathe when I have a shower, bath. Or we need water to water the garden. See the benefits of water. And see that now I'm safe within that water. Even though something in my past may have given me a fright or a fear of water. And heights, well, just got to have a look at them and say, well, other people go up. It's okay when you get there. Perhaps if you're frightened of flying, you go to the airport and you watch people board the plane. One day you'll say, right, I'll join them, I'll go with them. But take little steps to challenge yourself according to the fear. Spiders, yeah, they run fast, or even mice. But a lot of people don't like to have mice around. But a spider, just look at the delicate body it's got, its legs, and the spider's web that it creates and catches its food with flies. The wonder of a spider. When I put that sort of thing into my mind, it can help me take away that fear. And past relationships often cause fear and insecurities. I've had a bad interaction with somebody, somebody's let me down, somebody's deceived me, or I've been bullied as a child. And it's left a scar in our mind, in our personality. Then it's again trying to build up the best in me, build up the present me, what have I actually achieved? What have I done? And put aside the past. Or some people, of course, when it's really bad, are going to need some counselling. You don't neglect the counselling if that helps you to overcome some of our past fears, abuse or bullying, whatever. But taking a step, taking some move to change that. And the future. The mind is a very fickle thing. It loves to imagine. We imagine many things. We have lots of thoughts. What if? We begin to think of what might go wrong for myself, or my children, or my family, or even the world. So much we're hearing about today. What if? And I get frightened and feel insecure because of all the thoughts that go round and round and round in my head. And the more I think about it, the more I make it a bigger fear. But think about when something did happen, you acted quickly. If there was an accident, or you lost something, or something, some tragedy, you actually had the inner resources to act at that moment. So it's about letting go of an imaginary fear, as wonderful, as great it might seem, and putting something good again in its place, saying, it's not happened, and it may never happen, but I'm prepared for whatever. It's building up your courage, your peace, and self-confidence to know that if I've got a peaceful mind, I can have that clarity to act in the right way at the right moment. So I don't need to imagine excessively. If I'm going to imagine, let me imagine how I deal with something. Put a positive slant on it. If such and such a thing happened, what would I do? A beneficial way, make it beneficial. It's turning the adverse into something good. So in that way, fear is a friend. Make fear your friend and be your own best friend. Remember, you're the creator of your thoughts, you're creator of your feelings, you're the creator of your destiny. And so I can begin to sit with myself and say, right, what can I learn? I can learn something and I can grow by saying, yes, there's this fear, but not everybody has it. It's my own fear. And I can override it. I can put something else, confidence, courage, positivity in its place. Fear also is protection from danger. we didn't have some fear of fire, of electrical cables, of gas leaks, might say of earthquakes, volcanoes, whatever, we'd run ourselves into a greater danger. So it makes us cautious. So fear, just like you teach a child not to run out into the road because of the danger of a car coming down or knocking them down. Don't put your hand on a hot plate, it'll burn you. So there's the protection that comes from it. And there's a way to move forward, we can progress. The more we overcome our fears and our insecurities, then we're going to make further progress. We're going to gain further confidence and we'll be able to do more. We won't limit ourselves. When we have a lot of fear, we limit, don't we, our movements. We're afraid to go into crowds, maybe. We're afraid to speak up. We're afraid to learn something new in case we fail. It's a big thing that causes fear, doesn't it? Failure. But so many people, like athletes, gone ahead and they've had lost, athletes or sportsmen, they've lost a game or lost whatever their race, but they go and do some more training, they carry on. Might you have a fear of failing an exam, but you put a little bit more work into it. Or when you do fail, you do some more extra things. I remember, it makes me just think of when I failed my English language when I was at school. And a neighbour of mine was one of the markers, and she said, "Anne, you failed on your essay." Wasn't imaginative enough. And what happened, I went into a new class, and the teacher taught us how to write, how to create our paragraphs, how to begin, how to finish. And we got extra training on making a piece of prose interesting. So I gained a lot more then than I did before when we did the first O-level exam. So making progress often comes out of fear because you get some determination to go ahead. So, other ways, other things we can do. Those are things roll our mind, but we can do some creative things. We can go on and we can learn something new, take on the challenge, learning to play an instrument. Thinking, I will show myself that I haven't got fear. Or a new sport, or ever learn a language. Certainly found a lot of fear when I first went to West Africa because it was a French-speaking part of Africa, and only the people in the schools and the administration spoke French. But in the villages where I worked with the women and the children, it was all traditional religion, traditional language. So I had to learn to speak French, and I had to learn to speak an African language. It was a bit odd at first, knowing how I was going to get on. But I just had to plunge into it because I wanted to communicate. And gradually, I found that I'd go to the market to do some shopping and speak in the African language. It was called Goun, G-O-U-N. And the women on the market were quite fascinated because they hadn't seen a white person speak in their language before. And I got quite a few bargains, so that my house boy, who did my cooking and cleaning for me, said, I'm going to send you more often because they're giving you things cheaper than they'll give them to me. And so it was quite a good experience after wondering how I was going to get on and communicate. Because when I got off the boat, I arrived in West Africa. There was a French lady who met me, and she said, and how's your French? Oh, not so good. Oh, and she was so cross. She was so cross that nobody had taught me proper French before I came. And I went to stay with her, and she wouldn't speak French with me. She just spoke English. She could have given me the opportunity to learn, but I didn't learn from her because she was one of the group of French people, and there are a certain number in France who are very, very proud of their language, and they do not like to hear it spoken badly. In certain regions of France, they're very proud, and they have very little tolerance of people who speak it badly. Don't say that I speak it perfectly now, but I can get by and communicate with it. So learning something new is going to take you out of that fear. Perhaps talking to a friend if you're really stuck with your fears, your insecurities, and you'll find that other people have insecure feelings and they may have overcome a particular one. So let them advise you or share with you. Then to get out into nature. Instead of sitting at home with our fears, worrying about it, getting anxious and having sleepless nights, get out. There's nothing like getting out into the fresh air, the countryside. You've got to go a bit further here in London than I did when I lived in the north, but get out and listen to the birds, enjoy the colours, the autumn colours, and the fresh smell of the mown grass somewhere. Just get in touch with nature. And then, what else could you do? Just find a good book. Get into a good book that you can really enjoy, and perhaps identify with the characters that have overcome their fears, especially some of the non-fiction, where people have explained their experience. And one thing I thought about very much was beware of doctors' negative diagnosis. So many people go to doctors and hospitals and they say, well, this is terminal. You'll never get better. You won't do that. So a few stories here. I read about a man who was diagnosed with cancer and said, there's no chance, we can't operate, there's nothing we can do. So what did he do? He went off and he got as many humorous videos that he could, booked himself into a hotel, and he sat every day and he laughed and he laughed and he laughed at these videos. When after several months he went back for a checkup, There was no sign of any tumours. It had all cleared. The side of that, they spoke about a man who was diagnosed, and he went home and planned his funeral. Sure enough, his funeral came. My experience was a few years ago, I fell and injured my back, and nothing really was done about it here, and I went on for months and having a lot of pain. And as I go to India every year, I went to India and I was advised to go to the hospital in Ahmedabad, and I saw 2 hospital consultants, different hospitals. They all said, no, your back's very bad, very bad. You'll always have to walk with a stick. It's not good at all. It's very weak. And they really put a damper on things. When I came back, I decided I'd go and to the sports centre and do some exercises. So twice a week for at least a year before COVID, I went twice a week to a special exercise class. And it was painful, but gradually muscles in my back got stronger and I could let go of my stick and I could walk, and it's got stronger. And I also go to an endocrinologist who takes care of it at the hospital. And when I have the DEXA scans on it, very good reports. So things have really improved. It's good that I didn't have that fear that it wouldn't get better. It got right, and I'm strong again. One story I read in Chicken Soup. You know, there's the book you must have heard of about The Secret, and there's a video called The Secret. And in The Secret, the person says, anything is possible if you have positive thoughts. You can overcome anything. Just as long as you are determined and consistent in your thoughts, you can achieve something. And this man put a $50 note, I think it was, in America, on his ceiling above his bed and said, I'm going to become a millionaire. And every morning he looked at this $50 note on his ceiling and says, I'm going to get there. And of course he had to do something. So what he did, he started accumulating stories, people's real life stories, and making them into the books. And there is a large series, I don't know whether there's 30 books, I'm not sure, called Chicken Soup for the Soul. Some of you may have read some of them. You know, and they've got people's stories in it. And there's some beautiful ones. One I read a few days ago when I was thinking about this, and it was called The Power of Determination. And it was the early 1900s. This young boy, 8 years old he was, had the habit of going to school every morning and lighting the fire, or the heating, getting the heating going to warm up the schoolhouse before the teachers and the children came. This particular morning, the teachers came in. There was been a fire, and he'd been burnt all from his waist down. All of his legs had been just burnt, flesh, muscles just burnt away. And he was taken to the hospital, and he heard the doctor saying to his mother, it's better that he dies. He's no life ahead of him. And he thought to himself, I'm not going to die, I'm going to live. And eventually his mother took him home, and she'd massage his all the bones he'd got there. And she put him in a wheelchair to take him out. And she put him in the sun some days in the garden. And one day, he decided he'd throw himself onto the grass. And he pulled himself along the grass to the fence. There was a fence all the way around his garden. And with great difficulty, he got his hands up and he clung onto the top of the fence. And he started to move along with his legs hanging behind him, just dangling. Day after day after day, he did that until he could put his feet on the floor. And I understand from some other reading that he actually got some professional therapy eventually because of his determination. Within 2 years, when he was 10 years old, he was able to walk. First he walked, and then he ran. He joined the sports team, cross-country running at school. Eventually got to get into the Olympics. And his name was Dr. Glenn Cunningham, who ran the world's fastest mile in the Olympics. So overcoming the fears the doctors had, his mother must have had, and if he listened to them, he'd have had them. But he had that determination, he did it. Just one more story that was there. There was somebody who wanted help with the gardening. And this man who was the gardener went along to the house, and she came to the door in a wheelchair, and she got a towel over her knee. And when he looked, he noticed she'd no legs below the knee. She'd had them amputated. And she said, what I want now is to have some more healthy food. I want to be able to grow my own vegetables, but I can't get down to it. And he said, the gardener said, well, I'll build you some raised beds. So he built in her garden some raised beds that were level of her sitting in the wheelchair. And he helped to get the seeds to start planting. He went away. And he came back 6 months later, and there she was in the garden. And she'd got some neighbours with her. They were making a cup of tea, and they were chatting, and they'd been picking the vegetables and sharing them. So not only had she got some vegetables, she found some friends, and she found some company and some help in her growing. So overcoming those fears. So fears, overcoming it, certainly we can see leads to success and happiness. So why do we like happiness more than fear? We go for happiness, we don't want fear. Just like we'd like joy rather than anger. I wonder what it is. What is it about us? The reason is peace, happiness, love are our natural nature. The other, those negative traits, are acquired because we've forgotten who we are. So you must have heard, we do the Raj Yoga, we say our first lesson is, who am I? I am that tiny point of sparkling energy in the center of the forehead. And I have all these positive qualities that make up the real me. So what we're really striving for all the time is our own truth, our own reality. And we forget, we think we've got to get it from outside, from somebody else, somewhere else. What we have to do is to go within. And we shall meditate later on, and we'll experiment with this. So when we go within, we practice feeling, first of all, the peace that I am, the love that I am, the happiness that I am. And it's there within us that needs cultivating again. And the more we do that, the more we let go. Certainly, I'll say that before I came to the Brahma Kumaris, I had a lot of fears and insecurities. But I've done a lot of things in my life, and I've worked on this principle: feel the fear and do it anyway. But fear came up in many things. But once I found who I am and who I belong to, I can see the big difference of how the fear went. As well as being this point of light, I learn from Raj Yoga that I am a child of the Supreme, a child of the Divine. And this is where my power comes from to overcome these fears and these insecurities. I need to make that, sorry to the microphone, I need to make that connection. And I make that connection that I am that divine energy within, and above is the supreme energy. And when I do that, I can draw upon that energy to help my change. We'll think about it in a moment as like a shower of love, of peace, of happiness coming down on me, just to transform my fears into something very positive, very beautiful, very natural, so I can feel lighter, easier, and more cheerful, just by having that company of that divine. So there's a few things that we've been able to look at tonight. So I'm going to make a break there and ask you if there's something you'd like to ask or share. Yes?
Yeah, wait.
Oh, the microphone, yeah, it's good.
Hi, thank you very much for the talk. It was really beautiful, and the anecdotes and the stories carried me to many places. It was lovely, thank you. Is there a sense that with fear that you, when the fear comes along, you've got two choices, haven't you? You've got a choice to not address it, bury it, and it kind of hangs around until you decide to. It seems to me. Did I hear you correctly? Did you say fear is your friend, or did I imagine that? Did you ever?
Fear. You can make fear your friend to make you move on. Yeah, it's challenging you.
It's challenging, exactly. And there's a sense that if it's your friend, there's a benefit there in that it's kind of asking you to. It's saying, "Come with me."
Yeah, yeah.
And you have to kind of go through it.
That's it. Yeah, that's what I was trying to.
And in my experience, sometimes I've laughed on the other side. I thought, why was I? It was almost comical to me.
Yeah.
But the idea that you've kind of got two choices, but fear's calling you to go through it,
Yeah.
isn't it? So it's a call, and you kind of the right thing to do is to go towards it as far as you can.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Or you say, bury yourself in a way, I'm not going to look at it, and you miss out, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like when I went out to West Africa, I went out on the boat from Marseille on my own. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know what I was going to do when I got there. But I had that strong, calling since I was 11 years old that I had to go to West Africa. And so I went. But I didn't know what I was going to find when I got there. But it was go.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, it was an amazing time. It was absolutely wonderful. Yes, another one. That's good. Don't hold back. However simple your question is, it's great.
My question is about vicarious fear.
Yeah.
It's not my personal fear.
Yeah, no.
Which is something that I feel that I can will strive to work through. But what I find more difficult is when I feel the fear on behalf of other people, especially my loved ones.
Yeah.
And I find that I often find myself very, very frustrated that I can't teach or impose any of my wider thinking that might help. So, for example, my daughter has false memory OCD, so she has thoughts that play tricks on her hugely. And I know that we're now veering into the area of mental illness, which I know is not what your talk is about.
Yeah.
But I think that the spiritual path is something that can bring immense comfort and security and healing to people in this state. But when, I know that there's, if you can't control your mind, you can't control anything. I understand that on a rational level.
Yeah.
But when you live with someone who you see one moment has total control of her thoughts, and then an obsessive thought, which is usually, in her case, a false memory. So, for example, she may think that she's hit somebody in the car and she's killed them because she's gone over a bump in the drive. Now, her rational brain knows that hasn't happened. She knows that, otherwise she'd hand herself into the police. The irrational fear of what she thinks she's done, very, very difficult. And I just wondered if you had any spiritual strategies to help her to move towards, I think, which is something you were talking about right at the start of it, to move towards acceptance of thoughts and fears. I know it's a tricky question.
Yeah. First thing that comes to mind is you have to keep on loving her. Respect and love. And all our feelings are vibrations. And that love will keep flowing towards her, and respect, no matter how she behaves. And just to have things that, peace seems to be another thing, that she gets a peaceful atmosphere. maybe I mean, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, having that peaceful music sometimes, that she has times of peace. That's for some music. That's another thing that will help us a lot with overcoming fear, that she can come back to when this happens for her. I don't know whether it's a condition that will continue. I'm not familiar with it, but it's yeah, love and peace, and just keep respecting and loving her, and just tell her, I love you. Anybody else? You got any questions there?
No. Nothing. Everyone is content.
You haven't?
Yeah, everyone is content.
One question. What exactly were you doing in West Africa?
Wait a minute, bring the microphone. I didn't catch what he said.
What were you doing in West Africa?
What was I doing in West Africa? I went out and I knew I was going to work in the villages, because one of the poorest countries in the world, because it hasn't got any natural resources. Like, it was in between Nigeria and Ghana. Ghana's got the marble and Nigeria's got the oil, but they haven't any really resources. And so they lived quite a simple life in the villages, and I think they still do. I was out there in the 70s. So I worked in the villages with, they told me when I got there to look after 110 churches, but I never actually visited all 110. It was mainly, a lot of it concentrated on women and children. There was a lot of malnutrition with the babies, so it was helping to educate the mothers on how to feed them, how to wean their babies. And I did look after a couple of orphan children whose mothers died. And then you taught them about health and hygiene, as well as some Bible teaching.
Improved now from then? Is it more improved from the time when you went to now?
Yeah. I actually went back after 13 years. And they'd got a Marxist military revolution. That's why I came back. And we all came back from the British missionaries. And I went back after 13 years, and the teachers weren't getting paid, the civil servants weren't getting paid, and there was a lot more poverty. And one thing that was hard, that they had the highest percentage of traditional religion. It was voodooism. Voodooism that went to Haiti and to Brazil with the slave trade. And 65% voodoo. And that was sort of squashed rather a bit during the Marxist regime, but I read that it came up again and it still exists. It's the only I think it's the only country in Africa that has such a high traditional religion, and probably because the priests and priestesses had a 3-year training. They had a very strong training in a, they call it a covenant thing, and so they had a great hold over the population, and it sort of held them down quite a lot. But I haven't read anything just recently, but a few years ago I did read that with a civilian government again, the voodooism has risen up. Yeah. Is anything else? No? Are you satisfied? Does it answer some of your questions? Should we have some meditation now?
Yes, please, yeah.
When we meditate, we want to leave aside the happenings of the day, the things of the past, and the things we'll have to do. But it's inevitable that moment by moment we do remember. When you're meditating and you find your mind has wandered off, gently bring it back. Don't feel bad about it, because we're so used to letting the mind travel in many directions. But when we're meditating here, we want to be focused. So for a few moments, let your mind, let your body relax. Feet, legs, your thighs, back, your shoulders, chest, your arms, your hands. Let them relax, let them be free. And the muscles in your face, and even your scalp. Just check that you're not holding any tension. Then bring your attention to the center of your forehead, between the eyebrows, and turn within. Inside my head, behind my forehead, and in front of my brain is my sacred space. The place where I come to get to know myself as I truly am. I am the energy, the life force of this body. My form is that of a tiny, sparkling star. I sparkle with beautiful qualities, qualities of peace, love, happiness, purity, and wisdom. I had forgotten that they are my property, and I have searched and searched to find that happiness that goes beyond fear and insecurity. And now as I sit with myself, I becoming my own best friend. I first look at peace. Peace makes me calm, still, and silent within. Just as though I am resting on a soft cushion, so peaceful, so calm, so still. Then there's love. Love for myself. Having this love for myself, I gain self-respect, self-confidence to go beyond those fears that try to hold me back. I am lovable, I'm capable. So I don't say I can't. I say I can. Even with small steps, I'll arrive at my goal. Loving myself all the way. Purity, positivity is mine. Help me change what holds me back. The negativity, the waste thoughts, the detrimental thoughts that make me lose my confidence. So I stay with the positive and the pure. This increases my happiness, my joy. I feel good inside. There are times when it's not so easy to feel this, and I need that extra help, that extra power, that extra support. And now I know that I have a Supreme Father, a Supreme Mother, who is also my teacher, my guide and my friend. And I can call upon that by meeting point to points and letting that love shower upon me. Shower of peace, shower of purity, wisdom and happiness, filling every part of my body, every nerve, every cell, that I feel empowered, be energized. Also, I remember my Supreme Parent waits for me in the eternal home, the home of all souls. As I meet there, I find comfort and solace in the company of the Supreme, the Divine Parents. So when the time comes for me to leave this body, I go there with love, with peace and joy to my home beyond. Now I continue to play my part as an actor on this world stage with confidence and with love. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Anne, for the wonderful talk and all the tools and tips given. Our next week talk, same time, same place, and the topic is transforming waste into best. And on the product of the week is Slaying the Three Dragons is available in the shop, so you can browse through on your way out. And once again, thank you for coming and joining us, and have a safe journey back home. Thank you.